Excellencies, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues. My name is Kerstin Nagels. I'm a Director for Social and Economic Development and Employment at GIZ headquarters in Germany. And it is my privilege today to host this session in the important conference on universal social protection for all. This session is called Building Universal Social Protection Systems, and it's attempting to talk about a systems approach to building universal social protection. And I think that title and also the contents that we're discussing, they somehow suggest that there was a systematic and repeatable plan to building social protection systems, and especially universal social protection systems. While I think we all know that the successfully emerging social protection systems that we have been seeing throughout this morning and that we will be continuing to discuss throughout this day have evolved over time. They have started out with very different system ingredients, and they would initially not have been mapped out probably the way they look today. Except perhaps in the minds of some great masterminds of universal social protection, which I'm sure we also have in the floor. So it is in hindsight that we're discussing how to build universal social protection systems, in hindsight of those who have been moving along. And I'm particularly honored to have today the three guests with me here on the panel who come from countries who are finding themselves at very different moments of establishing universal social protection. We have Argentine, who are just now somewhat readjusting also their social systems to a change in economic environment. We have Nepal, who are attempting to expand coverage to the entire population through the establishment of different building blocks of different programs. And we have the Philippines, who are also looking into the expansion of coverage, but through better targeting on the one hand and through also the expansion of risks that are being covered. I will start with the first round of the three panelists to get their insights about what were the essential building blocks towards achieving universal social protection. And I will start with Marianne Darawai from the Philippines. Marianne is the from the National Economic and Development Authority. She is a director of the Social Development Staff. And I was very curious to read, and I like to read, that you consider yourself a public servant. Yes. And you put that first in your short bio. I heard also from my colleagues that you're quite passionate about social protection. And I think in your long career, you have had quite a lot to do with the establishment of the social protection system. So Marianne, if you could tell us what you think are the essential building blocks that you consider particularly relevant to your country's USP experience, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much, Kerstin. Yes. It's good I got it right. The main building block was basically a framework for which we would be able to further move on in building social protection systems in the country. The first of which was, of course, our roadmap for development, which we call the Philippine Development Plan. And prior to that, even, government has come into play in determining what the life of the Filipinos want in charting our long-term vision. It is the first long-term vision of the country. There was never one before. And it emphasizes, we call it ambition natin. It's a very local term. Ambition is actually ambition. And we have targeted 2040 as our goal for already working on how we are going to attend to the needs of our countrymen. The ambition is anchored on the following: that the Filipinos would have strongly bonded relationships, live comfortably, and have a secure future, and which is actually the main framework of social protection. In our pursuit of universal social protection, we conducted an assessment-based national dialogue to allow us to have a more holistic understanding of the status of the social protection in the Philippines. This is a prerequisite to the establishment of a national social protection floor and progressively in the future towards universal social protection. So, as you can see, the Philippine social protection floor has the following 4 basic guarantees: essential health care, children have access to nutrition, education, and care, and working-age people enjoy basic income security, particularly in sickness, unemployment, maternity, and disability, as well as all older persons have basic income security. We do point out a major nuance of the implementation of the social protection floor, and that is multi-sectoral and intra-governmental coordination. For example, providing universal access to essential services, especially health, nutrition, education, and care, are being acted on by the Department of Health and the Philippine Health Insurance Corporation, aside from the National Nutrition Council, Department of Education, and Department of Social Welfare and Development. We are keen on having unemployment insurance also in the Philippines, and we are proud to report that we are in the process of extending our maternity leave up to 105 days, which from the previous 60-day leave benefits to mothers. These benefits, alongside social and disability insurance, involve a myriad of agencies for implementation and coordination, particularly the Department of Labor and Employment, the Social Security Services Office, the National Commission for Disability Affairs, and among others. There are also, for income security of older persons, again, the Department of Social Welfare and Development, SSS, and the Government Insurance System Office. Intergovernmental coordination when it comes to the implementation of the establishment of the social protection floor may become cumbersome. Coordination is done through the Social Development Committee, which is a cabinet-level committee, and which is coordinated by my office, which is the planning agency of the Philippines. Specific operational details will be ironed out in the Social Development Committee, and in this committee we have a subcommittee on social protection, which are co-headed by my office, which is NEDA, and the Department of Social Welfare and Development. We are still in the process, however, of working out the kinks of the implementation of the SPF, or the Social Protection Floor, and the process would require great coordination among all the members of this committee and the other implementing agencies for all social services. Furthermore, the Philippines has recently enacted its Universal Healthcare Program. This is provided through our health insurance program, which has 6 member categories based on the source and amount of insurance premium contribution and the types of benefits one is entitled with. These are the formal economy members, and as pointed out earlier by one of the participants, the informal economy members have not been considered in the past, but this time in this health insurance program, we have also included the informal economy members, which include the sectors such as migrant workers, self-earning individuals, and other members of the informal sector. We also have lifetime members, senior citizens, and the sponsored members who have premium contributions subsidized by the respective local government units. Lastly, we also have indigent members and those identified by the national government as the poorest of the poor. Through these different membership categories and this system of cross-subsidization to include indigent members in the healthcare system, we aim to provide all Filipinos access to essential health care. As an additional, furthermore, the Philippines is likewise a key participant and implementer to the UN Women Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action +25, where our progress on women and the girl-child rights and needs are focused in its overarching dimension 2 on poverty eradication, social protection, and social services. Also, we have committed to the achievement of the SDGs for 2030, where several cross-cutting indicators have been identified. For example, SDG 1.3, which states that the target is implement nationally appropriate social protection systems and measures for all. As an additional revenue to fund the country's universal health care program, we are implementing sin taxes on alcohol and tobacco products and have increased on sugary beverages. These actions not only aim to increase revenue, but also promote healthier, like me, consumption options, hopefully. Just kidding. In the discussion earlier, there was also a question about databases. In the country, our Philippine Statistics Office has been charged to generate the data for the SDG indicators and monitor this regularly, which includes several social protection indicators. NEDA, on the other hand, or my office, is charged with the policy formulation in ensuring plan integration of the SDGs in the national roadmap and other sectoral plans. However, financing for USP initiatives still remains a major concern. Thus, continuing fiscal and monetary reforms are being introduced and studied as well as implemented. Already mentioned are sin taxes and increased premiums for insurances, especially for health or otherwise. The Tax Reform for Acceleration and Inclusion Act, or TRAIN law, has included revisions to the National Internal Revenue Code, taxation concerning personal income tax, estate tax, donor's tax, value-added tax, documentary stamp tax, and excise tax of petroleum products, automobiles, cosmetics, procedures, sweetened beverages, coal, mining, and tobacco. All these, ladies and gentlemen, were done not as an easy task. This is a continuing and dynamic task. We also have our Philippine Systems ID, which is a national ID card and is in the process of being implemented. We also have the National Household Targeting System for Poverty Reduction, which identifies who and where the poor are in the country. The local reference to this is Listahanan, and my friend in Indonesia has this information too already. Through this, my friends, while it has been birthing pains for some of our introduced reforms, we continue to help achieve social protection for all. We hope that we have highlighted the structures and frameworks that we have put in place towards the progressive realization of universal protection, social protection in the Philippines. Thank you and good morning.
Thank you very much, Marianne. I would like to ask you one quick follow-up question, because what you just mentioned in terms of decisions being taken on the National Income Code. These are, I mean, important and also very substantial changes that would affect a country and the redistribution systems that are in place. How did you actually achieve those decisions in the favor of universal social protection?
We have actually cluster groups that already attended to getting the information, or rather getting the reaction, no, of the affected population. And from this, we worked with the Senate and the lower house to get this law into action. And once it was already enacted, it was implemented by the concerned agencies. There was, of course, some dissension in some areas, but Train 1, we call it, this one that I have introduced, has been implemented since and has generated some, not enough, but some income already, or rather funds for our social service programs. Train 2 is in the process of, it's now suspended for the moment, but both houses are looking into its implementation as well because of the need to beef up the funding also for our universal health care program, aside from the other programs for education, which is free tuition fee and so on. Thank you.
And one more, we have heard now, you mentioned the long-term vision, you mentioned the multi-sector and intergovernmental coordination, you mentioned the data and the information system, yes, and the financing. Which of those building blocks would you say came first, would have kick-started the others? Is there any particular sequence?
Yeah, I think the database was primordial to everything because we needed to identify who our beneficiaries would be, where the poor are, who are the poorest of the poor, and categorizing the others who are nearly poor, and so on. No, so that was the first, and then after that, the legislation had to come in so that everybody was on board in providing the necessary funds and services for the poorest of the poor, or the poor in general, no? And then lastly, of course, was the new programs that we are introducing. Thank you.
Let's move along now to Nepal. I'm honored to have at my right Dr. Mukunda Prasad Pandyal, who is an economist by training and who is representing today the Ministry of Finance as a joint secretary. You have held various senior government positions in very different ministries, and I'm particularly interested actually to hear about your perspective also on universal social protection as someone who is not coming, you know, as an advocate or as a lobbyist from the field, but as someone who's coming rather from the economist's angle. So please, the floor is yours, Dr. Mukunda.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And good morning, good afternoon actually, good afternoon to you all. So let me briefly introduce my country, where I am coming from. It's a very small country, sandwiched between giant countries like India and China. It's in the Hindu-Kush Himalayan region. So it's a mountainous country. Most of the topography is covered by the high hills and mountains. So life there in Nepal is very complicated. We have only 15% of the plain land, of the total land. So living Nepal, and especially in the, the remote area, is very harsh and complicated. From this, we have to, it is not necessary to explain that people living in those corners of the, in the back of the mountain certainly need the social protection from every perspective. So realizing that the people living in far away off need the social protection, Government of Nepal has initiated many activities. Our constitution itself states that there must be protection to all, especially to children and vulnerable group. And we have the periodic type of plans, which is basically targeted for 3 to 5 years, and that also has extensive type of program to cover all the areas of social protection. So in line with that, we have the annual budget, which also allocates the money and design program to support the spirit of the Constitution and the periodic plan. So in Nepal, the government of Nepal is very much aware that when we have to build the universal protection system, then it is very much essential that we develop all the subsystem integral part and subsystems of the larger system itself. When I say the subsystem of the universal social protection system, I basically want to point out 3 things. First, it is the organizational structure that has to be designed in line with the in line with the social protection. It should be very much oriented towards it. And the second one is it's a legal framework that I want to highlight. Legal is very much important, legal side. So building laws, regulations, and monitoring and evaluation, if something went wrong, to correct is also important. So other one is the people working in the institution itself. So institution, legal framework, and human resources involved in the systems are very much important to develop, to design, or to continue to sustain this type of universal social protection system. So, and as an economist, as Madam said, I have the perception that the economic policy should also consider the social policy. In many cases, I don't deny that in our country we are repeatedly neglecting the social side of the policy, focusing basically on the economic policy. Now, since I came here and heard a lot of things about the things, then my feeling now is that the policy would not be complete unless we integrate the social policy inside it. So therefore, economic policy and social policy should complement each other such that this can help building the universal social protection. In saying that, I like to highlight one thing, that we have to design system, in particular in the context of developing country like Nepal. We have to develop the system in such a way that it facilitates the socio-economic development at the same time. It's not that we are one way delivering transferring the resources from the government. Rather, it should contribute to the productivity and economic activities and creating economic dynamism in the country, which is very much important in a country like Nepal. So that's what I want to share. In the end, I have some notion of weaknesses, the challenges that we are facing at the moment. So we have very low coverage, no doubt about it. We have very low resources. Therefore, it is very difficult for the government of Nepal to cover in one shot. So it is a gradual process. The government is developing the policies and the guidelines step by steps. So this year also, for your kind information, this year also government has brought out social sector, Social Security Fund Act, which is basically targeted to cover the universal type of protection for all. So this new initiative is meant to cover not only the formal but also the informal sector of the economy. So this is also one of the the landmark of in the history of social protection in Nepal. So in the end, I like to let you know that the history of social protection in Nepal is not that much new, though the civil service protection, like pension type of thing, was about 70, 80 years ago. But the social protection was initiated only 20, 25 years ago, and then the child protection was initiated only 10 years ago. So along this, period, then we have developed a lot, and I am fully, I believe that, and I am very much convinced that in the days to come, in the very certain period of the days to come, then government of Nepal will be able to cover all the needy and vulnerable group of the society. But thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mukund. I would like to quickly follow up with two questions. One, you were talking about the necessity to develop the subsystems into a comprehensive framework. Who would have taken that initiative in Nepal? So is it with the finance ministry? Is that a body that would have driven this approach forward and this attempt? And how did the line ministries react? Maybe that first.
Oh, thank you, madam. It's very important, because whenever we initiate any program, there must be some leader, of course. We have one ministry called Social Welfare Ministry, and that looks after particularly the children and women, so including the social security type of affairs. So that ministry is taking lead, and under the one that I talked just before was under that ministry. That is one of the autonomous department that we have created. Well, that was created 10 years ago, but because of the lack of the legal framework, that was not able to discharge its function properly. And since we have initiated new act this year, then I believe that in the days to come that will be very much instrumental. Regarding the function of the institution that where I come from, so as I said earlier, we have very limited resources. We can't allocate that much money as per the requirement, actual requirement. So we have to be very rational, rationalizing the fund. So for that particular purpose, in the first stage, we are targeting the rural, vulnerable type of group, and gradually we will allocate more money in the days to come. For your kind of information, we have about 15% of the total annual expenditure is spent to this social security type of affairs, and we have about 0.15 at the moment percentage of GDP to the social security type of things. So this is the preliminary stage. So with the lead of the ministry that I just quoted, the Ministry of Social Welfare, Children and Women, the Ministry of Finance will also supporting at the same time. And I think with joint effort, we can do a lot in the days to come.
Thank you. That makes for a strong alliance, I bet. And it's always good to have the Ministry of Finance on board in those important decisions. Yeah. Let me move to Argentine and to Dr. Gabriela Agosto, who is the Executive Director of the National Council for Coordination of Social Policies. Gabriela was previously also with the National Social Security Administration, and you served as a coordinator for the National Youth Employment Program. So I think you have already had the experience from various angles of government and non-governmental functions to look at social protection. And I'm very pleased to hear your take on where Argentine is moving and what was so important in the development of the Argentine social protection system.
Bueno, antes que nada, muchas gracias a los organizadores, a los miembros del panel y a los presentes. Me gustaría también, en línea con mi anterior expositor, caracterizar un poco el sistema de protección social de Argentina y también decirles de dónde vengo. Yo vengo de una región que lamentablemente es la región más desigual del mundo, no es la más pobre. Y eso plantea retos y desafíos diferenciados al sistema de protección social. Dicho esto, también les cuento que Argentina es el país pionero en la región y en el mundo en sistemas de protección social. Nosotros, para tener un solo dato, en el año 1947 en la Argentina ya había derecho al voto universal femenino. En mediados del siglo pasado, el mundo del trabajo formal asalariado instituyó las reglas del sistema de protección social en Argentina. Había un presidente en Argentina que decía que había una sola clase de hombres, los que trabajan. Si después de tantas décadas empezamos a pensar este rol de la ciudadanía vinculado al mundo del trabajo, claramente en mi país, con 30% de trabajadores en negro o en términos informales, hay 30% de la población que no debería sentirse ciudadano. Creo que esto es uno de los retos que hoy el sistema de protección social en Argentina tiene, que es el tema de la informalidad. Pero también existen otros retos muy distintos a los de los expositores anteriores. En la Argentina, el 90% de los niños, niñas y adolescentes, lo vamos a ver mañana, pero acceden a un sistema de protección social. Nosotros tenemos más del 99% de asistencia escolar en primaria, secundaria y universidad gratuita para todos los que habitan el suelo argentino. Es decir, hay una política migratoria también muy inclusiva. Pero claramente tenemos desafíos muy grandes en términos de inclusión. Entonces acá, más que nada, digo, el planteo de mi antecesor, no hay política social y política de inclusión más efectiva que la política económica, pero también creo que la Agenda 2030 nos trae una dimensión más para complejizar la situación, que es la dimensión de la sustentabilidad ambiental. Entonces creo que cualquier debate de sistemas de protección social requiere una mirada de desarrollo muy comprensiva, muy gestáltica, muy completa, y más en un mundo donde hay más dudas, yo tengo más cuestionamientos que respuestas. Sin embargo, me gustaría comentarles que el sistema de protección social en Argentina, que se inicia en la década del 40, con servicios públicos universales de educación y salud, siguen vigentes hasta hoy, que fue tomando nuevos desafíos conforme a los procesos. En la década del 90, debido a la mayor crisis que sufrió la Argentina en el año 2001, se instituyó también un plan de transferencias monetarias no condicionadas a familias, que fue el Plan Jefes y Jefas de Hogar, que en la actualidad es más conocido como la Asignación Universal por Hijo, y es la mutación de ese programa que establece la cobertura universal para familias con niños de menores de 18 años en situación de vulnerabilidad social. Claramente hoy el sistema de seguridad social es un sistema universal, está legitimado por el Congreso, es un derecho, y está basado en 3 pilares. Un pilar que es el piso mínimo de ingresos, que son transferencias monetarias, el mejoramiento de la calidad de vida, que se caracteriza por las prestaciones de salud y de educación, y la movilidad social, que se vincula, salud, educación y vivienda, infraestructura, y el tercer pilar, que es promover la movilidad social, que se basa en políticas de trabajo y promoción del empleo. Asimismo, existen un conjunto de políticas de corte transversal que están vinculadas con grupos específicamente vulnerables, como son los indígenas, la población migrante, las mujeres, la población urbano-rural y las personas con discapacidad. Actualmente, como les comentaba, el 90% de los niños y niñas en Argentina está cubierto por algún tipo de transferencias monetarias, ya sea del componente contributivo o no contributivo de la seguridad social, y también en adultos mayores existe una cobertura del 90%, ya sea por jubilaciones contributivas o no contributivas. En materia de política laboral hay un programa bastante extensivo que llega a 1 millón de jóvenes para la promoción del empleo. La problemática de la informalidad laboral sigue siendo clave, y yo creo que es el punto nodal de trabajo, cómo incorporamos estas personas a un sistema formal de trabajo. En Argentina hubo algunas iniciativas, y existen iniciativas como el monotributo social, que son mecanismos de incorporación de trabajadores precarios a la cobertura de salud y al régimen que permite desde la economía informal emitir facturas y contar con una obra social y aportes para una futura jubilación. También el tema del acceso a la vivienda, que lo comentaron mis antecesores. Nosotros desde hace 2 años iniciamos un proceso de regulación dominial para villas de emergencia o asentamientos, personas que dentro de la estructura de la pobreza estaban en situaciones de criticidad, y la idea es hacer la transferencia desde la titularidad de estas tierras. Considerar todas estas dimensiones a la estructura del sistema de protección social ha impactado en el incremento de la cobertura en todos los segmentos de la población, y eso se debió a un conjunto de acciones en la que la información jugó un rol importantísimo. Desde hoy venimos escuchando que varios países, y me alegra un montón, están generando sistemas de información. A mí me gustaría comentar un poco cómo viene la Argentina trabajando, porque nosotros también tenemos 2 sistemas de información. Uno se llama SINTIS, Sistema Integrado Tributario y Social, que es la base nominativa que ya cumple este año 20 años, donde se unifican los datos, no solo sociales, sino también tributarios. Ustedes saben que la Argentina es un país federal, nosotros tenemos 24 provincias y muchas de las prestaciones de la protección social y de los sistemas fiscales son descentralizadas. Entonces, esta ingeniería de los datos requiere de la contribución y requiere el compromiso de los gobiernos locales, tanto provinciales como municipales. En la Argentina hay 2.200 municipios y esto establece una complejidad muy grande, no solo en la obtención del dato, sino también en el cómo compartir los datos, ¿sí? Requiere solidaridad que creo que ese fue el esfuerzo más grande de estos 20 años de consolidación de la base. Y también nosotros tenemos un sistema de relevamiento de familias, relevamientos de familia en situación de pobreza. La Argentina desde el año 95 existe este sistema de relevamiento, que después dio origen al cadastro, que también lo comentaron esta mañana en Brasil, pero la Argentina tiene un montón de experiencia en términos de relevamiento de hogares. A mí me parece muy interesante los 2 procesos de trabajo que nosotros tuvimos en el país, tanto el SINTIS como el SISFAM, que es la base de familias, por el tema de no estigmatizar la pobreza. Me parece muy peligroso tener registros de pobres y sí me parece importante saber dónde estamos, porque claramente yo también soy una apasionada de la administración pública y me siento una servidora pública. Creo que es absolutamente, y en esta era de la información, obtener información para un proceso de decisión claro y claramente las bases nominativas son necesarias los relevamientos no solo de individuos sino también de hogares. Es necesaria la lógica estadística, pero vinculada a la lógica registral. Yo vengo de un país donde existen sistemas de información poderosos, falta mucho proceso de digitalización de bases de datos, pero claramente es indispensable consolidar estos sistemas de información para una toma de decisión más certera. En términos, hay otra área que también depende yo soy responsable de un consejo coordinador de políticas sociales que depende de la Presidencia de la República y tiene entre sus misiones la Agenda 2030, tiene el sistema de información SINTIS y tiene el sistema de información SIEMPRO. Nosotros, no sé, por ahí muchos conocen la Coneval en México. Nosotros tenemos dentro del Consejo el área de información, evaluación y monitoreo de programas sociales. Esta es una herramienta que tiene el Estado para nutrirse de información técnica para la definición política. Nosotros el año pasado desarrollamos el primer Plan Nacional de Evaluación, donde se seleccionaron los programas más importantes con mayor impacto en términos financieros y de cobertura de la protección social, y la idea es no solo trabajar en el monitoreo y la evaluación, sino también colaborar en los rediseños de política. También estamos con una lógica que tiene que ver con la simplificación al ciudadano, ¿no? que lo denominamos en la Argentina ventanilla única, donde el Estado Nacional tenga una vinculación directa con el ciudadano en una sola manera de vinculación. Esto unificaría las prestaciones nacionales en primera instancia, y después estamos trabajando con las provincias y los municipios para poder coordinar la asistencia social en términos federales.
Thank you so much, Gabriela. I think that was a very rich contribution illustrating the pioneering role, the pioneering role.
Oh, sorry.
¿Sí?
Sorry.
¿Funciona?
No, no me llega. Ahí, ya está. Gracias. Sí.
So I was just to say that your contribution aptly characterized the pioneering role of Argentine in the movement towards social protection and the pioneering role that you have had internationally. I think there is plenty of probably of follow-up questions from the plenary, which you might also have to take into lunch break, I'm afraid. But I will give you a little bit of room shortly to also ask the most important questions in here. Gabriela, you pointed out that it is quite difficult, with regards to the information systems. You pointed out, one, be careful about not stigmatizing, not establishing separate registries that would rather stigmatize beneficiaries. And you also pointed out how difficult it might be to share information between different services and to make sure that these informations that the information generated can be used to complement different services and to actually interlinking them. What would be your main lesson learned in that context? So what do governments have to absolutely consider when establishing those kind of information? And then I would like to move to Marianne with that same question. Mm-hmm.
Sí, yo creo que uno de los temas más importantes que tiene que ver con la experiencia del CINTIS, y los invito a todos a ver en la página de Presidencia de Argentina, hicimos un documento de los 20 años del Sistema Integrado Tributario y Social, fue la confianza, ¿no? La confianza del uso de los datos, y más de datos nominativos que están protegidos en el caso argentino por la ley de habeas data. Nosotros tenemos la información de personas desde el consumo, derecho de propiedad, salario, gasto, hasta prestaciones sociales. Creo que todos los dueños de esas bases de datos tienen que tener la certeza y se tienen que dar reglas claras de uso de la información que cercioren y que fortalezcan esa confianza a los dadores del dato. Fundamentalmente el Ministerio de Hacienda, el Ministerio de Finanzas, la Secretaría de Seguridad Social son algunos de los aportantes a los datos, pero en la Argentina tenemos más de 8.000 bases de datos que componen el Sistema Integrado Tributario y Social. Tenemos más de 3.000 pedidos mensuales por parte de la justicia de datos específicos para causas penales. Y también tenemos demandas de 10.000 ejecutores de política pública, tanto nacional, provincial como municipal, en términos de la base. Con esto quiero decir que no solo el tema de la confianza, de la responsabilidad en el uso de los datos, sino también de la utilidad. Yo creo que tenemos que generar instrumentos que sean útiles para la toma de decisión de todos los actores que componen esos datos, y en ese sentido son los gobiernos locales y provinciales los que quieren colaborar en completar las bases nacionales. Me parece que esa sería.
With regards to the Philippine ID system, it's still being developed. It is intended to identify all Filipinos locally and abroad. So meaning to say, they do not need to have multiple identification cards anymore, all Filipinos, to be able to transact business with even the banks, if possible. But for now, we're looking into the integration of the Social Security system identification, and of course, the cash transfer system. But at this point in time, we're only focusing on identifying them as Filipinos. No? So it is a national ID system which is going to be targeted for piloting at the Metro Manila area first and one other region to determine whether it is, especially the elderly and the 4Ps beneficiaries, They're going to be prioritized so that the beneficiaries of our cash transfer program will no longer be using their cards at the moment and will be covered for all other services, no? If they have the national ID already. In terms of data protocol, we are, of course, the Philippine Statistics Office or Authority is the one in charge and the one who has protocols also for data security. And we cannot use the generated data there unless we enter into a memorandum of agreement with the authority for us to be able to use it even for policymaking purposes. Aside from that, the generated information that they have are published, and if it is published, that they're the national authority for statistics in the country, but the local governments can still do their own data generation, and with the accreditation from the PSA, they can use it as official data as well. Now, for the targeting of our 4 Ps, or the cash transfer program, the Department of Social Welfare and Development has developed this system already, and they are in the moment, as I speak, already improving on the system because we have expanded the coverage of the poor to nearly poor as well. So because it's a listahanan for households, the individual information that is necessary is trying to be integrated in this listahanan program so that it can be used nationwide as a targeting system also. So for now, it's only used for our cash transfer program. Thank you.
And Dr. Makunda, we have heard that in the context of the national health insurance build-up as well as the new Prime Minister's employment plan, you are also looking into linking the civil registry with the different social protection programs. So what is the approach there, and what experience have you made so far?
Thank you, Madam. Well, the motto of the current government of Nepal is Prosper Nepal and Happy Nepali. When we say Happy Nepali, it includes not only the material type of things, it must include some some psychological, emotional, mental type of things. So, in order to achieve those type of, the objectives, the government of Nepal has initiated many programs, along with the one that I just mentioned before, the Social Security Act. So regarding the registration of Nepal, we have one department. Now, we don't have any national ID system yet in Nepal, but we have recently started registering that is civil registrations. So regarding the distribution and then the implementation of this social type of this social protection, social insurance, and social assistance type of program, then the local community has to go, people from the local community has to go to the local government offices, which is, of course, handled by the lower level, state level bureaucrats. So first they have to go and register that their position, conditions, stating all the details required by design in the form. And once that form is duly filled up, then that is sent back to the central government. And the central government, the central ministry collects all those information and requests Ministry of Finance to allocate the money for the upcoming year. This is how this whole social security system is managed in Nepal at the moment. So, but there is a departure, the paradigm shift type of thing. Now we have social security system, so intended to cover even the informal sector. So we have the massive type of campaign at the moment. So Ministry of the Social Welfare is very much actively involved in it, including the repository of the information system and so on and so forth. But designing the system is very costly, that we already know. So regarding the national ID system, the Asian Development Bank is helping Nepal to, it was helping actually, it's a long project, 5-6 years have already elapsed, but now they have started. We have started from the central actually. So I have national ID now. Since 2 months, I didn't have. Now I have. So this is, as I said earlier, it's a gradual process. We have started it. So information is very important, that no doubt about it. But the processing and the systematically designing in a way that facilitates that create efficiency in the social social protection system is very important. But at the same time, it is cost involving type of thing. So country like Nepal is find it very difficult to design the whole system. So for that particular purpose, Nepal sometimes looks to the international community, and currently the ADB is helping, and then the first primary level of data information, data repository will be prepared on its assistance. So since then, the processing and the designing those and utilizing those data to design this universal social protection system would be the another one. That would be again another challenge for us. For that also, my expectation is that the Nepal will be assisted by the international community. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a progressive spirit, I think, that is inherent to the build-up of universal social protection systems. And thank you also for already making reference to what could be the role, for example, of development partners also in the universal social protection partnership. That will be actually my final question to all of you, not only about development partners' role, but also about your potential contributions to the Universal Social Protection Partnership as the representatives of the country today. But also for your information, we were given another 15 minutes because we started 15 minutes late. So please, even if you're hungry, bear with us. And I would like to open the floor now for immediate questions from the plenary. And I see a colleague from Pakistan who already asked a question in the first round, but the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. This is for the honorable member from Nepal. There's a very disturbing report that has come out today, in fact, from ICIMOD, which says that 1/3 of Himalayan ice cap is doomed, and this report took 5 years to make. So it's a very serious report, and we were discussing environmental issues earlier in the earlier sessions. The World Bank has done some great work on disaster risk management systems being aligned to social safety nets. I hope that Nepal and other countries who are going to be hit by this, especially in South Asia, are going to take advantage of that. Otherwise, the most vulnerable, who we are representing here today in Geneva, will be really badly hit. And just a side comment on Philippines. I've seen as minister when I was there, your list, Hannah, and I understand that ADB is not just helping Nepal out, but ADB is also helping Philippines out with the registry. So I'm happy to see that there is some work on that. Thank you.
I would like to take 3 questions in a row. The lady over there.
Merci. Je remercie tous les intervenants et je voudrais m'adresser à Madame Gabriela Agosto. Je sais qu'en Argentine, ils ont mis en place un système de child grant pour les enfants et je voudrais lui poser la question comment ce système a été financé d'abord. Et deuxièmement, vous avez parlé que vous avez fait un plan d'évaluation de votre politique sociale par rapport à ce programme. Quels ont été les résultats? Et merci.
Okay. Thank you. And then I had a third one over there, please.
Boris Engelson, I am a bad journalist, but still accredited with the United Nations. I am referring to the title of the last two sessions. And we have heard during these two sessions that social security and coverage have a long history. Even in the South, it started 1, 2, 20 centuries ago. So what are, in fact, the obstacles? One possible answer is to say it's because of tax evasion and debt imperialism. Some countries, even at the podium, are very keen on this kind of rhetorics. But maybe this is not the final answer. So what are the obstacles which make that after 1, 2, 20 centuries of agreement for the case, the title of the previous session is Case for, everybody is for. So why it doesn't work until today, and what are the main stumbling blocks we are supposed to discuss until 5:30 this afternoon, until this case is implemented once and for all.
Thank you very much. I think some of the challenges were already pointed out by the speakers, but I think they'd be happy to dive a little bit deeper. Is there a very, very urgent question over there? Because I have to also look at the time management. So that would be the last I'm taking.
Yes, I think it might be fairly urgent. My name is Patrick Taran. I'm former senior migration specialist here at the ILO and now head up Global Migration Policy Associates. And I wanted again to pick up on a point I think that was raised earlier this morning about the particular concern globally with essentially the exclusion of many, if not most, people who are migrant workers outside their country of citizenship, and a widely generalized lack of access to social protection, both in terms of their country of origin and in countries where they're employed. This becomes a huge issue in countries like where I come from, where the United States Social Security Administration indicated that they obtain about a $55 billion subsidy over a 5-year period from the contributions that are obligatorily made by workers who have no documented status but who can never benefit from the contributions they make. I look at this in a bigger question and note that I would have liked to hear, or I think it would be useful to look at not only national solutions but some of the regional solutions that are emerging, particularly in the case, for example, of Argentina that's part of the Mercosur system, in which the Social Security Administration's access and benefits are generalized across the region, and people who work from one country and another actually can benefit, and access is even easier than for people moving within the European Union. I think in the terms of the Philippines, there's a lot that the Philippine government is doing. Nepal has, what, 20% of its workforce outside the country and faces serious problems.
Okay.
I'd like to say this is on the table. Perhaps it deserves more discussion later, but I leave it at that.
It does deserve a lot more discussion. I'm completely with you. I think most of the countries present here are sending workers outside. Some are also receiving, so it would be interesting to hear their very, very brief reply to that. I would like to have that final round now of you three. So I would start with you, Gabriela. Could you kindly answer also our Tunisian colleagues' question on how you evaluate? And then we move forward and take the questions, but also your final statement, please, on what you would contribute to the USP partnership.
A ver, trato de ser sistemática. Voy a empezar con migraciones. Hay un informe que nosotros hicimos en el marco de la Agenda 2030 sobre migración y ODS, donde el resultado más importante es que el 0.7 del Producto Interno Bruto en la Argentina se destina a población migrante, que es el porcentaje de población migrante que nosotros tenemos. Igual es un trabajo que lo financiamos con la Organización Internacional para las Migraciones y es muy interesante. Ahí solo vemos lo que es migración internacional, no miramos lo que es migración interna, que este es otro de los grandes deudas pendientes que la Argentina tiene, la migración entre argentinos. Con lo que dice de acuerdo en Mercosur, es cierto, nosotros en el Mercosur tenemos un acuerdo, pero solamente es para trabajadores formales. Entonces también acá hay una deuda pendiente y ese mismo acuerdo lo tenemos también para países como Italia o como España en términos de protección social al trabajador formal, pero hay un gran desafío. En relación con los obstáculos que decía el señor, claramente la pobreza es multidimensional y yo creo que las respuestas para abarcarlas también en un mundo cada vez más cambiante, cada vez con desafíos más locales y desafíos cada vez más globales. Por eso para mí el tema del multilateralismo hoy es fundamental, es necesario acuerdos globales para poder impactar en términos locales. Creo que hay, como decía al inicio, hay más preguntas que respuestas, pero sí creo que hay algunas líneas que tenemos de seguir fortaleciendo, como esta, la mirada integral en términos de definición de políticas de desarrollo inclusivas para los que menos tienen y también en las 3 dimensiones del desarrollo, donde lo ambiental, lo social y lo económico no pueden verse supeditados uno del otro. En relación a la UH es la asignación universal por hijo. Mañana va a haber un seminario aquí que patrocina la UNICEF. Ahí también voy a hablar del programa. Este programa es un programa que surge en la década del 2000, pero que tiene su correlato en la crisis del 2001 y es la transferencia universal para familias con hijos de menores de 18 años. Es un programa que tiene 4 millones de beneficiarios y, bueno, en el Estado argentino, sí, perdón. Bueno, y hay muchos logros. Hay logros que tienen que ver con el impacto de la indigencia, pero claramente es una contracara fundamental en tiempos de fluctuaciones económicas. Tiene efectos positivos en el empoderamiento económico de las mujeres y tiene resultados positivos en términos de acceso a la salud y a la educación. Contribution. Bueno, nada, nosotros, ustedes en la página de Presidencia de la Nación, Consejo de Políticas Sociales, pueden ver nuestras áreas de trabajo. Creo que nosotros tenemos una importante experiencia en términos de sistemas de registración, en sistemas de evaluación y monitoreo. Nosotros estamos ahora, ustedes saben que en 2 meses en Buenos Aires se hace la reunión del VAPA más 40 años, la reunión más importante de cooperación internacional, sur-sur y triangular. Nosotros estamos haciendo cooperación sur-sur en términos de sistemas de registración, de evaluación y de monitoreo, así que lo que podamos hacer nos ofrecemos activamente.
Marianne, I think you could also answer the question regarding disaster risk management systems, because we heard that the Philippines have expanding the risk that are being covered, like my colleague said, not only on sunny days, but also on rainy days. And I think that could be a case in point in response to the first question. And then I would also like you to answer the obstacles and the contributions.
Okay. In terms of, if I can mix that up,
yeah,
before I go into the climate change or resiliency on climate change, no? With regards to the question on the gentleman who is a UN journalist, I can agree that some of the problems that, or obstacles, no, to Social Security is still debt servicing and tax evasion probably, but I can confidently say in the Philippines we are already getting into the problem of tax evasion, and we have actually gained, I don't have the exact figure, but we have gained some payments from evasive taxpayers, supposedly, no? Especially the corporate taxpayers. Before, corporate taxpayers or the corporations were not being taxed as much or not being given attention, but now I think there are several. In terms of debt servicing, we have improved some of our monetary policies and monetary relations with the IMF and the other financing institutions. So, what are the main obstacles to Social Security? I think it is on a case-to-case basis, country to country. In my country, I think it's still the same, tax evasion and debt servicing. For the question on migrants, I'll have to get back to you, Sir Patrick, on this one, because I am not in a position, but there are some new programs already introduced to help protect our migrant workers, and it has been very helpful. The subsidy, I can give you some figures. I hope you can accept an email with regards to this one. And in terms of contribution, I cannot answer the system on children benefits because that's very specific to Argentina.
We have to close.
Yeah, and then our contribution to the Universal Social Protection would be sharing with you our targeting system, which we call Listahanan, and then the local government level participation, which is very widespread already, and our government-private partnership, especially for health, education, and climate change resiliency. This has been very effective so far with regards to our local government units. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marianne and Dr.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I thank you, Madam, for raising the questions of ICIMOD in Nepal. So for those who are unaware of the ICIMOD is an international organization. Headquarters is in Kathmandu, Nepal, and it looks after the, the climatic and geographical type of environmental thing from Afghanistan to all the way through Burma, looking after the Hindu Kush Himalayan mountain. So the report that published, I have not gone through the report, but as I heard, there are a couple of challenges recently, actually. That is because the Nepal has transformed itself into the federal type of state structure from last year on. So now there are 753 local government bodies. They are very much autonomous and independent. So they are using autonomously, sometimes in without coordination with other and the provincial and central government. They are building road in the mountains where the mountains are very slope and very young type of mountains that Nepal have. So because of that, we have the problem of landslide, especially in the rainy season, landslide and flooding. And this is a issue that must have risen by the World Bank, as I understood. So that is what I want to say at the moment, because we are running out of time. And regarding the migrant worker, thank you for pointing out this issue. We have this type of thing in mind, but we are now in the first stage. We can't cover those migrants. We have the plan to cover them in the second and third stage. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much to all three panelists. I think that was a very rich round of experience sharing between three countries and the plenary, and I see the high levels of attention span even if we're moving into lunch. It was also a little bit of an experiment because my colleagues, of course, briefed me, and the BMZ has just recently published a discussion paper on a systems perspective on universal social protection that identifies certain fundamental characteristics shared by the majority of countries progressively moving towards universal social protection. And I'm happy to say the experiment succeeded. We actually capture through the different contributions all those essential building blocks that were identified. I think especially in the discussion we also saw, when it comes to very different redistribution decisions that have to be taken, then it is really, really important to have a very good platform, a shared vision, if possible, a legal framework that will be, carving in the institutions and also the social security programs that you want to see surviving also through political changes and over government changes. We also saw how important it is to have that unified information system and to make sure that the different services actually exchange information and make good use of the joint information available, and how important the multi-sectoral coordination is. So you can find that in the publication. My colleague will be standing there and happy to be distributing. I would like to give a round of applause to the three panelists, and thank you all for your attention.
So now we will have lunch where we had the coffee break, and we are